The scent of blood and expensive cologne always arrived before Dante Quan did. The November wind cut through New York's downtown like a blade, carrying with it the smell of the Hudson River and promises broken in back alleys. Inside the Imperial, warmth radiated from every corner. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors polished to mirrors. The murmur of conversation mixed with soft jazz floating from speakers hidden in the walls. Maya Stevens moved through the crowd with practiced invisibility. Her black uniform was crisp, her dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. At 28, she'd mastered the art of being present without being seen, a skill essential for anyone working in a place where New York's powerful came to make deals the world would never know about. She refilled champagne glasses, removed empty plates, kept her eyes down, though she saw everything. The nervous politician in the corner booth, the real estate developer who paid in cash, the lawyer whose clients never saw trial. More water here. A woman dripping in diamonds barely glanced up. Of course, ma'am. Maya's voice was soft, professional. She poured carefully, noting the slight tension in her shoulders. Tonight felt different. The air held something she couldn't name, like the moment before lightning splits the sky. Across the dining room, Dante Quan commanded attention near the corner table. At 32, he didn't need to demand respect. People simply gave it. Tall, sharp-suited, his presence filled whatever space he occupied. The dragon tattoo coiling up his neck caught candlelight, seeming to move with each breath. He ran legitimate businesses on paper: construction, import, real estate. But Maya knew, like everyone in this room knew, that Dante Quan's real power came from shadows the law couldn't reach. Korean syndicates, protection networks, territory carved out with blood and silence. She'd worked at the Imperial for 2 years, just another face among the staff. She needed this job, needed the stability, needed to stay invisible in a city where asking too many questions got you disappeared. But tonight, invisibility was about to shatter. Maya, Vincent, the floor manager, appeared at her elbow. His face carried worry lines deeper than usual. Table 12 needs service. Now, table 12, the corner table, Dante Quan's table. He asked for you specifically. Maya's pulse quickened. He doesn't know my name. He does now. Go. Don't make eye contact. Don't speak unless spoken to. And don't mess this up. She approached with water and menus, her face a mask of pleasant neutrality. Dante Quan sat with 3 men, all Korean, all watching her with the kind of attention that made her skin prickle. He didn't acknowledge her presence, just continued speaking to his lieutenant in rapid Korean, his voice cold and dismissive. Look at this woman, like a dog waiting for its master. Black people are always so obedient. His men laughed, cruel, knowing. Something ancient and furious ignited in Maya's chest. She'd spent 15 years running from her father's world, from the Korean he taught her at the kitchen table, from the blood that stained her memories, from everything she'd tried to forget. She sat down the menu, looked directly into Dante Quan's eyes, a violation of every unspoken rule. In perfect native-level Korean with a Busan accent, she said 3 words that cut like a blade. Isn't the dog you? The restaurant went cold. Every conversation stopped. Forks paused midair. Dante Quan dropped his glass, water spreading across white linen like blood across snow. Maya didn't flinch. You think you can insult me because I'm black? Because I serve food? I understood every word. And I'm telling you now, the only dog in this restaurant is the one who tears others down to feel powerful. The silence was deafening, suffocating. Dante Quan stood slowly, towering over her. For a moment, she thought he might kill her right there. His hand moved toward his jacket. She saw the outline of a weapon. Instead, he smiled. Cold, predatory, fascinated. What's your name? Maya Stevens. Well, Maya Stevens. He leaned in close enough that she could smell expensive whiskey and something darker beneath it. You just made the most interesting mistake of your life. He threw $500 bills on the table and walked out, his men scrambling to follow. Vincent appeared at her elbow, face ashen. Pack your things. You're done here. Do you have any idea what you just did? But Maya was watching Dante Kwan's retreating figure, watching the way he paused at the door. Looked back once, his eyes locked on hers across the crowded restaurant. And something in her gut told her this was far from over. She'd just spoken to a mafia boss in his mother tongue, called him a dog in front of his men, shattered every rule of survival in this city. Why had she done it? Because some insults you swallow, and some you answer, even when answering might cost you everything. Especially then. Before we continue, please subscribe, like, and share where you're watching from, so you can be appreciated on my next video. Dante Kwan couldn't sleep. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse. New York skyline glittering below like scattered diamonds on black velvet. 3 o'clock in the morning, and the city still breathed, still moved, still lived. But all he could see was her face. The waitress who'd looked him in the eye. The woman who'd called him a dog, in perfect Busan Korean. He pressed his palm against the cold glass, trying to ground himself in something real. His reflection stared back, dragon tattoo dark against his neck, eyes shadowed with something he refused to name. Obsession. It had been 4 days since the Imperial. 4 days since she'd shattered every rule of his world with 3 words. He'd replayed the moment 1,000 times. The way her spine had straightened, the fire in her dark eyes, the accent that belonged to his grandmother's kitchen, to the streets of his childhood, to a world an ocean away. How did a black woman in New York speak like she'd been raised in Busan? Behind him, his tech specialist, Leo, cleared his throat. The younger man looked exhausted. Circles under his eyes from days of searching. Boss, I have the report. Dante didn't turn from the window. Tell me. Maya Stevens, 28, born in Atlanta, mother deceased, cancer 15 years ago, entered New York foster care at 13. Father listed as unknown on the birth certificate. Leo paused. Her employment history is clean. 2 restaurant jobs before the Imperial. No criminal record, no debt, no gang affiliations. She's invisible. No one is invisible. Dante's voice was cold. Keep going. That's the problem. Before age 13, there's nothing. No school records, no medical files, no photographs. It's like she didn't exist until she appeared in the New York foster system at 13. Dante turned slowly. Foster system. Her mother was dying. Couldn't care for her anymore. Maya spent 3 years in state care before aging out. She worked her way through community college, kept her head down, never caused trouble. Leo hesitated. It's too clean, boss. People who hide this well are either running from something or protecting something or both. Dante moved to his desk where Leo had laid out printed documents, photographs, timeline charts, everything they could find about a woman who'd made herself disappear. He picked up her employee photo from the Imperial. She was beautiful in a way that didn't ask for attention. Smooth, dark skin, intelligent eyes, mouth set in a line that suggested she'd learned early to swallow words that might get her killed. Hair pulled back severe, revealing the elegant column of her neck. But it was her eyes that held him. Even in this stage photo taken for a restaurant badge, there was defiance there. Fire banked, but not extinguished. The Korean, Dante said quietly. Where did she learn it? That's what I can't figure out. No record of language classes, no travel to Korea, no Korean adoptive families in her foster placements. Leo pulled up a recording on his phone. But I had someone at the restaurant that night. They captured audio. He pressed play. Maya's voice filled the room, speaking Korean with the precise intonation of Busan's working-class neighborhoods. The accent his father had beaten out of him when they'd moved to America. The accent he still dreamed in. Dante closed his eyes. It wasn't just fluent. It was native. It was real. Someone taught her, he said. Someone who lived in Busan, who spoke it at home, not in a classroom. Someone who wanted her to remember. But who? Her mother was American. Father unknown. There's no connection to Korea anywhere in her background. Dante opened his eyes, mind racing through possibilities. A black woman with perfect Busan Korean. A father erased from every record. A childhood that didn't exist before 13. She's protecting someone's memory, he said softly. Or hiding from it. Leo shifted uncomfortably. Boss, should I keep digging? She's just a waitress. You could forget about her. Move on. Could I? Dante's laugh was bitter. He picked up the photograph again, studying the face that had invaded every quiet moment. Tell me, Leo, in all your years working for me, have you ever seen anyone look me in the eye and challenge me? No, boss. Have you ever heard anyone outside our organization speak Busan Korean in this city? No, boss. Then explain to me how I'm supposed to forget the woman who did both. He set the photo down carefully. Precisely. Find out everything. I want to know what she eats for breakfast, where she goes when she thinks no one's watching, who she calls late at night, everything. And if she's dangerous? Dante smiled without warmth. Then I want her close where I can watch her. And if she's innocent? He paused, considering. Then I want to know why she isn't afraid of me. Leo nodded and turned to leave. And Leo. Dante's voice stopped him at the door. Bring her to me. Sir? You heard me. Find her. Bring her here. Don't hurt her. Don't scare her more than necessary. But I want to look into the eyes of the woman who speaks like my grandmother and ask her who taught her to be fearless in a world that should have broken her. After Leo left, Dante returned to the window. Dawn was breaking over the Hudson, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. He thought about his grandmother in Busan, the woman who'd raised him until his father had dragged them to America. She'd spoken exactly like Maya did. Rough, honest, unafraid. She would have liked the waitress who called him a dog, he thought. Would have laughed and said he deserved it. But his grandmother was dead, his brother was dead, his father was dead, and Dante Kwan was the last of a bloodline built on violence and silence. Until a woman with his grandmother's accent had looked him in the eye and refused to bow. Who are you, Maya Stevens? He whispered to the rising sun. And why do you feel like the answer to a question I didn't know I was asking? The city offered no reply. Only the promise that soon, very soon, he would have her in this room, would hear her voice speaking his language, would uncover every secret she'd buried beneath that perfect mask of invisibility. And then he would decide if she was salvation or destruction. Perhaps both. They came for her on a Thursday night. Maya was walking home from her second job, a late shift at a coffee shop in Queens when a black SUV pulled alongside her. She'd been expecting it, had felt eyes on her for days. The weight of being watched, being hunted. She didn't run. Running would only delay the inevitable. Two men stepped out. Korean, professional, the kind of men who knew how to move bodies without leaving marks. One of them spoke in accented English. Miss Stevens, please come with us. And if I say no, then we do this the uncomfortable way. But Mr. Kwan prefers you arrive unharmed. Maya looked up and down the empty street. No witnesses, no help, just the choice between walking into the cage or being dragged. She thought of her father's voice, whispered in Korean during the years before he died. Pride is expensive, baby girl. Knowing the fight is worth the cost. She climbed into the SUV. The drive was silent. They didn't blindfold her, which meant either they didn't care if she knew where she was going or they were confident she wouldn't be leaving. Both options were terrifying. She watched New York pass by the tinted windows, memorizing turns, calculating distances. The penthouse was downtown, top floor of a building she'd passed 100 times without knowing who owned it. The elevator required a key card. The hallway was empty, pristine, the kind of expensive silence that money bought. They stopped at double doors, black lacquered wood with subtle gold inlay. One of the men knocked twice, waited, then opened the door and gestured for her to enter. Maya stepped into another world. The penthouse was vast, open, designed to showcase the city sprawling below. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped the space, making New York look like a kingdom laid out for its king. The furniture was minimalist, expensive, all clean lines and dark wood, art on the walls that probably cost more than she'd make in a lifetime. But it was the man standing at the window who commanded her attention. Dante Kwan didn't turn immediately. He stood with his hands in his pockets, silhouetted against the city lights, dragon tattoo visible where his collar was unbuttoned, waiting, letting her feel the space, understand the power dynamics. Thank you, Marcus. You can go. His voice was quiet, controlled. The men left. The door closed with a soft click that sounded like a cell locking. Dante turned, and Maya felt the full weight of his attention. In the restaurant, surrounded by people, he'd been dangerous. Here, alone, he was devastating. Not because of his size, though he was tall and built like someone who knew how to hurt people, but because of the intelligence in his eyes. The way he looked at her, like she was a puzzle he was determined to solve. "Seat, I prefer to stand." A ghost of a smile touched his mouth, still defiant. "I like that." He moved closer, circling her slowly. "Do you know why you're here, Maya Stevens?" "Because you don't like being embarrassed." "I've been embarrassed before. Shot, stabbed, betrayed. I'm still here." "No, you're here because you're a mystery. And I don't allow mysteries in my city." Maya watched him circle, refusing to turn her head, refusing to show fear. "I'm not a mystery. I'm a waitress who spoke Korean. That's all." "No." He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could smell expensive cologne and something darker beneath. "Whiskey, smoke, violence. You spoke Busan Korean, native level, with an accent that died out 20 years ago. You spoke like someone who learned it at home, not in a classroom, someone who lived it." He leaned in slightly. "Who taught you?" Maya met his eyes. "My father." Dante stepped back, gesturing to the apartment. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay here, live here, and slowly you're going to tell me everything about the man who taught you to speak like you were born in the same neighborhood as my grandmother." Maya's pulse quickened. "You're kidnapping me. I'm protecting you. You challenged me publicly. Call me a dog in front of my man. Do you think my enemies didn't notice? Do you think they're not wondering if you're connected to me? If you're valuable? If hurting you would hurt me?" He moved to a bar cart, poured 2 glasses of something amber. "Whether you want it or not, you're in danger now. So, you can stay here where I can control the variables, or you can go home and see how long you last." He held out a glass. Maya didn't take it. "This isn't protection. It's a cage." "Yes." Dante agreed simply. "But it's a cage that keeps you alive. And while you're here, you're going to answer my questions, starting with this. Your father, black man, fluent in Busan Korean. That's not common. That's not random." His eyes bored into hers. "Was he military, adopted, married to a Korean woman?" Maya's throat tightened. She'd spent 15 years protecting her father's secrets, protecting herself from the world he'd belonged to. And now she stood in a penthouse with a man who might have known him, might have killed him, might be the reason her father had run. "He was born there," she said finally. "In Busan, his mother was American military wife. His father was black serviceman. They stayed after the father was stationed elsewhere. Unusual, but not impossible. He grew up Korean, spoke Korean, lived Korean until he came to America." Dante's eyes widened slightly. "A black man, raised in Busan." "Yes." "What was his name? Why does it matter?" "He's been dead for 15 years. It matters because I need to know if you're connected to my world. If your father was involved in things that make you dangerous to me." Dante set down his glass carefully. "Last chance, his name." Maya calculated the risks. Lie, and he'd find out eventually. Tell the truth, and risk everything. But her father had changed his name when he'd fled. James Stevens wasn't in any Korean records. James Park had been erased. James Stevens. He died when I was 13. Cancer officially, but he'd been running from something. He never told me what. It was the lies she'd learned to tell. At 13, he vanished from her life and the world, while he hid her and ran. The truth lived years later in a hospice room in Atlanta. Dante studied her face, searching for deception. "You're telling me the truth, but not all of it. I've told you enough. You've told me the minimum required to satisfy immediate curiosity. But I want more. I want to understand how a waitress in New York speaks like my childhood. How a woman with no connections to my world knows how to look a man like me in the eye without flinching." He stepped closer. "You're not convincing anyone you're just a waitress. And you're not convincing anyone you're in control." The words came out before Maya could stop them. "You're just scared of what you don't understand." The temperature in the room dropped. Dante went very still, the kind of stillness that preceded violence. Maya's heart hammered, but she didn't look away. If he was going to hurt her, she'd face it like her father taught her, standing defiant. But Dante didn't move, didn't explode. Instead, something shifted in his expression. Surprise, interest, something almost like respect. "You're right," he said quietly. "I am scared because you shouldn't exist, and things that shouldn't exist are either miracles or threats. I haven't decided which you are. Maybe I'm just a woman who learned Korean from her father and had a bad day at work. No, Dante smiled, and it was dangerous and beautiful and terrifying. You're something far more interesting than that. And I'm going to find out what. The weeks that followed were strange. Maya stayed in the penthouse, not quite a prisoner, not quite a guest. Dante gave her freedom within limits. She could move through the apartment, use the library, cook in the kitchen that was bigger than her entire old apartment. But she couldn't leave. At first, they circled each other like wary animals. He asked questions. She gave partial answers. He pushed. She resisted, but slowly something shifted. One night, she found him in the library, reading a book in Korean. Poetry from Busan, the kind her father used to read to her. "You miss it," she said from the doorway. He looked up, surprised she'd initiated conversation. "Every day, my grandmother's house overlooked the harbor. I'd sit on the balcony and watch the ships come in, listen to her cook in the kitchen, speaking Korean that sounded like home." He closed the book. "America gave me power, but Busan gave me a soul. I lost it somewhere between the two." Maya sat down across from him. "My father said the same thing, that he left pieces of himself in Busan, that speaking Korean was the only way to remember who he'd been before the world made him into something else." Dante studied her. "You loved him, more than anything. Even though he ran, even though he left you in foster care, he didn't leave me. He protected me." Maya's voice was fierce. "Whatever he ran from, whoever was hunting him, he made sure I was safe first. That's not abandonment. That's sacrifice." Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked the question she'd been waiting for. What was he running from? Maya? Who wanted him dead? And for the first time, she told the truth. Not all of it. Not yet. But enough. He witnessed something. A crime. Something big involving Korean syndicates in Busan. He testified, gave evidence, helped put people away. She met Dante's eyes. And then those people came for him, hunted him across the ocean, found him in America, killed him, and made it look like suicide when I was 13. Dante's expression darkened. Who? I don't know names. He never told me. Just said that the people he betrayed were powerful, that they had long memories, that I needed to disappear, change my name, never speak Korean in public. She laughed bitterly. "I kept that promise for 15 years. Until I met you. Why did you break it? Why speak to me that night?" "Because I was tired of being invisible. Tired of letting men like you say whatever you want because you think no one understands. Tired of hiding." She leaned forward. "You insulted me in the language my father died protecting, and I decided his sacrifice meant I didn't have to be silent anymore." Dante was quiet, processing. "Your father," he said slowly. "James Stevens. Born James Park in Busan." Maya's blood went cold. "How did you?" "I've been searching. Quietly. And I found something." He pulled out a folder. Old. Worn. James Park testified against the Moonlight Syndicate in 2006. A trafficking operation that moved women and children through Busan's ports. His testimony put 15 men in prison, including the syndicate's second-in-command. Dante's voice was careful, controlled. The Moonlight Syndicate was absorbed by larger organizations after the arrests. Most of their operations were dismantled. He paused. "But some of the men your father testified against? They're out now, served their time, and they're back into business." Maya felt the room spin. "They're still alive?" "Some of them. And if they knew James Park's daughter was in New York, speaking Korean, working in restaurants where people like me do business." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. "You think they'd come for me? I think you're loose, and they never tied up. And loose ends in this world don't survive." Maya stood, paced to the window. The city sprawled below, beautiful and deadly. "So what do I do? Hide forever? Change my name again? Run like my father did?" "No." Dante stood beside her. "You let me protect you. Really protect you. Not as a prisoner, but as someone under my shield." "Why would you do that?" "You don't even know me." "Because your father did what mine never could. He chose right over easy, justice over loyalty, and he paid for it." Dante's reflection in the glass looked haunted. "My father built an empire on the backs of people like the ones your father exposed. And I inherited that empire, continued it, became exactly what he wanted." He turned to her. "But you make me wonder if I could be something else. Someone else. If a man like me could choose different." Maya looked at him, really looked. Past the danger, past the violence, past the dragon tattoo and the reputation. She saw what she'd seen that first night. A man at war with himself. You could, she said softly, but it would cost you everything. Maybe everything I have is worth losing. The next morning, Dante made a call that would change both their lives. He contacted his network, put out word that Maya Stevens was under his personal protection, that anyone who touched her would answer to him. It was a declaration of war against shadows, against men who'd killed her father, against a past that refused to stay buried. And it made her untouchable, but also made her his. If you're still with me on this journey, drop a like and tell me in the comments, would you have challenged Dante like Maya did, or would you have stayed silent? Your thoughts fuel these stories, so let me know what you're thinking. Now, let's see what happens next. 3 months passed. Maya and Dante fell into a rhythm. He went to his businesses during the day. She read, cooked, slowly ventured out with bodyguards Marcus assigned. They had dinner together most nights. Spoke in Korean and English, mixing languages like their lives had mixed. He told her about Busan. She told him about Atlanta. He showed her the scars from his father's beatings. She showed him the letter her father had left, the one that explained everything. They weren't lovers. Not yet, but they were something, connected by language and loss and the strange alchemy of two people who understood violence intimately. And then the past came calling. It started with a message. Simple, direct. We know where James Park's daughter is. Give her to us, or we'll come for her ourselves. Dante read it 3 times before showing Maya. They found us, he said simply. Who? The Moonlight Remnants. The men your father destroyed. They've been watching, waiting, and now they want closure. Maya's hands shook as she read the message. What do they want? You. To finish what they started. To make sure James Park's bloodline ends. Dante crumpled the paper. But they'll have to go through me first. He called a meeting. His entire organization. 20 men who'd followed him for years. He told them the truth. About Maya. About her father. About the choice he was making. I'm protecting her, he said. Not because of business. Not because of strategy, but because it's right. Some of you won't understand that. Some of you will think I've gone soft. But I'm telling you now, anyone who comes for this woman comes for me. His voice was steel, and I will burn their world to ash. Half his men looked uncertain. A quarter looked angry. But Marcus, his oldest friend, stepped forward. We're with you, boss. All the way. One by one, the others nodded. Not because they understood, but because Dante Quan had never asked for loyalty without earning it. The Moonlight Remnants struck 3 days later. Not at the penthouse. Not directly. They went after Dante's businesses, his construction sites, his import warehouses. Burned them. Destroyed them. Left messages in Korean that said, "Give us the girl." Dante didn't flinch. Instead, he did something unprecedented. He went to the police. Not with bribes. Not with threats, with evidence. He gave them everything. Financial records, names, locations, the entire network of the Moonlight Remnants laid bare. He dismantled 15 years of criminal infrastructure in a single afternoon. And when his lawyer asked why, Dante said something that shocked everyone. Because I'm choosing different. I'm choosing to be the man my grandmother would be proud of. The man Maya's father was. The arrests happened quickly. Coordinated raids across New York and New Jersey. The FBI had been watching the Moonlight Network for years, waiting for someone to flip. Dante gave them that opening. And in exchange, he asked for one thing. Witness protection for Maya. A new name. A new life. Safety from a man who'd killed her father. But Maya refused. I'm not running anymore, she told him. I'm not hiding. If you're choosing to be different, then so am I. I'm choosing to stand. Dante stared at her. You could die. I could live. Really live. For the first time since my father died. She took his hand. And I choose to do it here. With you. The final confrontation happened at the Imperial. The restaurant where it all began. The Moonlight leader, a man named Chen Wu, demanded a meeting. Neutral ground. Just him and Dante. Maya insisted on coming. Dante tried to refuse. But she reminded him that this was her fight too. Her father's legacy. Her choice. They sat at table 12. The same table where Maya had called Dante a dog 6 months earlier. Chunwoo was older, scarred, eyes full of hate. "You destroyed everything," he said to Maya in Korean. "Your father took 15 years of my life. Put me in prison. Ruined my family. He deserved it," Maya said calmly. "He stopped you from trafficking children, from destroying lives." Chunwoo's laugh was bitter. "And now his daughter sits with a gangster. How poetic." He looked at Dante. "You betrayed your own world for her. Gave evidence to the police. You're a traitor, just like James Park." Dante met his eyes. "No, I'm what James Park died trying to be. A man who chose justice." Chunwoo reached for his weapon. But Dante was faster. Not with violence. With words. "The FBI is outside. They've been listening to every word. You threaten her, you threaten me, and you'll die in prison." Chunwoo froze. And Maya spoke. Her voice was clear, strong, carrying her father's courage. "My father broke the circle. He chose to protect children instead of profit. He chose right over easy." She stood. "And now you have the same choice. Walk away. Start over. Or die trying to kill the daughter of a man who is better than any of us." For a long moment, Chunwoo didn't move. Then slowly he stood, put his weapon down, and walked out. The FBI arrested him 2 blocks away. But the message was clear. The cycle was broken. The revenge was over. And Maya Stevens, daughter of James Park, had done what her father couldn't. She'd survived. 6 months later, the Imperial reopened. But it wasn't the same restaurant. Now it was a community center. A place for immigrant families, for kids caught between cultures, for people trying to build legitimate lives from criminal pasts. Funded by Dante's clean money. Run by Maya's vision. The opening gala was small. No politicians bought with bribes. No crime lords making deals. Just people who'd earned their place through courage. Through choosing right. Dante stood at the entrance, watching Maya move through the crowd. She wore a simple dress, deep blue, hair down for the first time in months. She was smiling, really smiling, the kind of joy that came from building something real. "You did good," Marcus said beside him. "We did good," Dante corrected. "All of us. You really gave it all up. The money, the power, the empire." Dante shook his head. "I didn't give it up. I redirected it." He watched Maya laugh with a group of teenagers from the Korean language program they'd started. "I spent 30 years building power through fear. Now I'm building it through hope. Which one do you think lasts longer?" Marcus smiled. "Your grandmother would be proud." "Yeah." Dante's voice was soft. "I think she would." Later that night, after the guests had gone, Dante found Maya standing at table 12. They'd kept it, recreated it exactly as it had been that first night. A reminder of where they'd started. "You know what this is?" Dante asked, coming up beside her. "The place where everything changed." "No." He turned her to face him. "The place where everything began." He pulled out a small box. Maya's breath caught. "I've been carrying this for 3 months, waiting for the right moment. But I realized there's never going to be a perfect moment. There's just now." He opened the box. A simple ring. Elegant. Unadorned. "Maya Stevens, you call me a dog in perfect Korean and changed my entire life. You made me believe I could be something other than my father's son. You show me that monsters are just men who forgot they could be anything else." He took her hand. "So I'm asking you here, at table 12, where it all began. Will you marry me? Not despite who we were, but because of who we chose to become." Maya couldn't speak, could barely breathe. She looked at this man who'd kidnapped her, protected her, chosen to burn his empire rather than let her die. This dangerous, complicated, beautiful man who'd learned to be gentle. "Yes," she said. Her voice was clear, strong. "Yes, I'll marry you because you're right. We're not who we were. We're who we chose to become." Dante slipped the ring onto her finger. And when he kissed her, the restaurant that had witnessed their collision, their confrontation, their transformation, now witnessed their promise. They married 3 months later in a small ceremony at the community center. Table 12 was recreated one final time for the occasion. 17 women her father had saved flew in to serve as witnesses. The teenagers from the Korean language program read poems about second chances. Marcus stood as Dante's best man, tears in his eyes for the first time in 20 years. They exchanged vows in both English and Korean, mixing languages like their lives had mixed, creating something new from two separate worlds. When the officiant pronounced them married, when Dante kissed his wife for the first time as her husband, the room erupted in applause and joy in the messy, complicated triumph of people who'd survived impossible things. Later, much later, when the guests had gone and they stood alone in the space that had witnessed their beginning and their becoming, Dante led Maya to a wall they'd prepared. A memorial wall, names etched in bronze. The 17 women her father had saved. The children who'd been rescued from trafficking. The families rebuilt from ashes. And, at the center, a single plate that Maya hadn't seen yet. James Park, James Stevens, hero, father, the man who broke the circle. Maya's breath caught. You honored him. He saved 17 women, exposed trafficking, died protecting you. Dante's voice was thick with emotion. He was everything I thought I was, but actually wasn't. He deserves to be remembered, not as a ghost, but as what he really was, someone who chose right when everyone around him chose easy. Maya touched the plate, traced her father's names with trembling fingers. He'd like that, being remembered in both languages, both names, both truths. They stood together, installing a small candle beneath his name. And as the flame flickered to life, Maya felt the weight she'd been carrying for 15 years finally lift. Not completely. Some grief never fully heals, but enough that she could breathe, could live, could imagine a future that wasn't just survival. What now? She asked. Dante pulled her close. Now we live. We run the community center, build the scholarship program, have kids someday who speak Korean and English and know their grandfather was a hero. He kissed the top of her head. We prove that love can break bloodlines, that people can choose to be better than their fathers, that revenge isn't the only inheritance worth keeping. And if it gets hard, then we fight together, but not with violence, with truth, with love, with the stubborn refusal to let our fathers' sins define our children's futures. Maya leaned into him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. She thought about the moment she'd called him a dog. How terrified she'd been, how reckless, how that single instant of defiance had changed absolutely everything. Isn't the dog you? She whispered into the quiet. Dante smiled against her hair. No, the dog was never me or you. The dogs were the men who built empires on broken bodies and called it strength. He turned her to face him. We're something different, something better, something that chose to be human even when the world taught us to be monsters. I love you, Maya said. Simple, true. The most complicated truth she'd ever lived. I love you too. He kissed her softly. My wife, my partner, my salvation. Somewhere in whatever place the dead went, two fathers, one Korean and one black, both destroyed by the world they tried to change, looked down at their children and smiled. The circle had broken. The revenge had ended. And love, fierce and impossible, had won. Not because it was easy, but because two people had chosen it anyway. Had chosen each other. Had chosen to build something clean from blood-soaked foundations. 1 year later, Maya stood in front of a classroom. 15 teenagers sat before her. Korean, black, mixed white Latino. Kids from everywhere and nowhere, caught between languages and cultures and expectations. The sign above the door read, the James Park Language and Culture Institute. Today, she said in Korean, then repeated in English, we're going to talk about identity. About being caught between worlds. About what it means to carry two languages in your heart. She looked at each face. Saw herself in every one of them. My father was a black man raised in Busan, Korea. He spoke Korean before he spoke English. And when he came to America, people told him he didn't belong anywhere. Not Korean enough for Korea. Not American enough for America. She paused. But he taught me that being between worlds isn't weakness. It's power. Because we see things others can't. We understand both sides. We can build bridges. A girl in the front row raised her hand. Her skin was brown, her eyes Korean. Did people make fun of him for speaking Korean? Maya nodded. All the time. They told him he was pretending, that he wasn't real, that he should just pick a side. What did he do? Maya smiled. He spoke louder, spoke prouder. He refused to let anyone tell him who he was allowed to be. She looked around the room. And that's what I'm teaching you. Not just Korean, not just English, but how to be proud of every part of yourself. How to speak your truth even when people don't want to hear it. How to call out dogs when you see them. The students laughed. They'd heard the story. The legend of how Mrs. Kwan had met her husband. Maya glanced at the back of the room where Dante stood, arms crossed, watching with quiet pride. He came to every class, learned alongside the students, relearning the language his father had tried to beat out of him, reclaiming what he'd lost. Two people from different worlds who'd found each other in chaos and chosen peace, who'd taken languages that divided and used them to unite, who'd broken every rule and built something better from the pieces. And somewhere above the city, two fathers smiled. James Park, who died protecting his daughter, and Dante's grandmother, who taught him that love was the only empire worth building. Their children had learned, had survived, had chosen each other, and in choosing each other, they'd chosen to end the cycles that had destroyed their families. The circle was broken, the revenge was over, and love had won. If Maya and Dante's journey moved you, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment and tell me what moment hit you the hardest.